Hello friends, I am Vahid from the RF Education channel, and this is the 6th session of Streamlit tutorial series. I hope you find this session useful and informative. If this is your first time watching this series, let me give you a quick introduction. Streamlit is a Python library that allows developers to create web-based user interfaces for their applications without requiring any web development knowledge. It helps build user-friendly interfaces that enable end user to interact with applications more effectively. Widgets are the essential building blocks for creating interactive user interfaces in Streamlit. Over the past 3 sessions, we've explored basic widgets. In this session, we'll dive into another set of widgets. First, we'll look at date and time widgets, which are commonly used in most modern applications. Streamlit provides these widgets with a lot of options to make date and time selection easier. Next, we'll explore the color picker widget, which allows users to customize the interface by selecting their preferred colors. Another useful feature in Streamlit is the file uploader widget, which lets users upload files for further processing within the application. And finally, we'll cover the download widget, which enables users to download processed data or generated content. These are the whole widget we will talk about in this session. Now, let's jump into VS Code and start exploring these widgets together. So, as most of the time we need to get some dates from user or a range of dates, for example, start and end date, to do some logics or filtering things or selecting a subset of data and do some algorithm on them, I'm going to start this part with date input, another widget that Streamlit provides for us. So first of all, I'm going to say I have a variable named selected date. It's equal to, and before that, I'm going to just import date time. Select date equal to st.date input. And you need to provide a label. I'm going to say select or pick a date. And if I save it and select always rerun here, you can see we have a label here, pick a date, and a date time, a date widget here. And this date widget support date from 10 years ago till 10 years later. And the current and the today and the date of today is selected as default. But let's see what we have here. We have a label, a value that we can pass, for example, a selected date by default, not today, something else. And also we can have a minimum and maximum value. We can narrow or customize the beginning and the end of the supported date by this widget. Key, help, unchange, KW args, and also args are as with other widgets, and we talked about it in previous session. Key is an identifier, help is a tooltip for this widget, and we can tell some information about this widget to the end user. Unchange is a function that when the value of the widget change, it will be called automatically, and we can pass some positional arguments and some keyword arguments to that specific function, and we talked about them in previous sessions, so they are the same. And also here we have a format. We can change the format of the date inside this widget. By default, it's 4-digit for years, 2-digit for month, and 2-digit for days. And also, they separated by a slash, so we can change all of them. Disabled and label visibility also are somehow obvious that what's their functionality. Now, I'm gonna pass a date as the default value. So I'm gonna say the date date time, that's date. For example, 2014 1/1, January 1st, 2014. So you can see the default date is January 14. And if I open this drop downs, you can see now start begins from 2004, 10 years ago, from the current date, and the end of the widget is 2024, 10 years after this default date. And also we can set the format. I'm going to say go ahead and show me 2-digit for date, for date, 2-digit for month, and separate them by dot, and 4-digit for year. So if I save it, you can see everything just change, and we separate them in this way with dot, and day is coming first. And also I'm going to say st.info selected date. So you can see the format is not applied to the date that returned by this widget. It just applied to the display part here. Okay, be careful about that. You always encounter this format if you want to work with date in Streamlit. Now I'm going to talk about minimum and maximum value, and also selecting a range. Here we can just select a new date, for example, January 16 or the end of the January. But I want to be able to select a range of date. For example, in most of the flight reservation site, we can set the traveling and returning date for our flight. So how can we do that? I'm going to comment this part. And first, I'm going to set the date time for next year, and I'm going to let the user make a reservation for next year holidays for a trip, for example. So I'm going to say today is datetime dot now. It's today. Next year, it's another variable equals to today dot year plus 1. And January underline first for next year, it's a variable. Datetime dot date for year we can use next year, month, and day. And also December 31st equal to again datetime dot date again next year, and 12 and 31. This is the end year date. So I'm going to say, okay, we have a variable named trip underline range equal to, and also I'm going to print this here. So st.date input, enter as the label, enter trip date for next year. And I'm going to pass a tuple for the value. So I'm going to say January 1st for next year, and I'm going to reserve by default a 6 day of trip. Date time dot date next year, again for the year, next year, and January and 7th. And for mean date, I'm going to pass January 1st, and for the max date, I'm going to pass December 31st. So if I save it, something went wrong. Yeah. And we have something wrong here. January. Okay, let's see. Also, let's correct this one here. It says built-in function methodology cannot be interpreted as integer. Date time dot date next year. So it's okay also. Date input. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, sorry, it's here. We need to pass next year. So, okay, as you can see, we have a range date here, and also the return value is again the date that we specified by default. And if you open the widget, you can see we have two selected date with some ranges here with different colors. So I can select, for example, and also we have only 1 year here, and from January to December. For example, I want to use August, 1st of August to 10th of August. So this is the new date that I selected, and to datetime object returned as a tuple. So we can do some logic with this return value. And what if I want to, let's comment them and return it back. What if I want to just let the default value empty? st.info info selected date. So here I'm gonna remove this one also. For value, I'm gonna pass none as the value. So here you can see nothing selected here, and the default format will be shown inside the widget. Now you can select a date based on your need. So here you can also clear after selecting something. When you pass the none as the value, you can clear out the selected date. User can do this. Sometimes maybe the date is optional and you want the user to select the date, not to force the user for that. And also if you pass a format, for example, again dd.mm.yyyy, the format also applied as a placeholder for date widgets. So this is all about date widget. Next thing we're gonna talk about time input. Sometimes we need to get some time from user or help the user to select a time, some predefined time, some steps we need to have in or some interval between times. Let's see how we can do that. So to get time from user, it's much more straightforward. We can create a variable named selected time, and it's equal to st.time input. So again, as the parameters, we have a label, a time that its default value is now. Key, help, unchanged, and args and KWs are the same as other widgets. Here we just, and also disable and label visibility, they are the same with all other widgets. But we can have a step here. We can set interval between time inside the time dropdown. Let's see what does it mean. So I'm gonna just use a label select time. This is the simplest way that we can use to have a time dropdown on the form. And also I'm gonna say st.info selected time. So you can see here we have also the second. So as you can see, dropdown will be appeared, and we have time from the beginning of the day 0000 with 15 minutes as interval. And by default, the current time is selected or is added to this dropdown. You can also change it and use one of these date and time, for example 5 a.m. You can also enter your preferred date here. For example, I want to look for, for example, 12:25. So the time will be selected and user can select it. And also if you want to put it as an optional argument, you can pass none for value. In this manner, you can see nothing selected by default, and the placeholder is 2 digits for hours and 2 digits for minutes. Again, the step is 15 minutes for interval from one to the others. And also we can have step here. Let me also show how you can select some default time using time inside the datetime module. For example, I'm looking for 8:31. 8:31. So you can say the default value is 8:31, and you can again select time between these items. And as for step, you can use an integer number or a time interval or time delta, as it says here. Look, it's a time delta or an integer value. So if I pass, for example, 100, or let's pass 120, this is 2 seconds, 2 minutes. It's equal to 120 seconds equal to 2 minutes. So if I opened it, you can see we have 0, 2 seconds, 4 seconds, and a lot of items inside this drop down, they generated automatically. But we can also use, for example, 3,600, it's equal to 1 hour. And we can see we have different hours here, and the minutes are the same for all of them. And also you can use datetime dot time delta, and for minutes, I'm going to say, for example, 100 minutes. So here we have the beginning of the day. After that, 100 minutes equal to 1 hour and 40 minutes. So the next step is 1 hour and 40 minutes. So this is a way that you can pass time step for time input. And using this widget, you can get some time from user easily without any problem. The next widget is selecting a color. So you can get a color from user and do some customization using markdown method in your UI. So for getting color, we can use color picker widgets. I'm gonna create a method named color equal to st.colorpicker, and this one is very straightforward. We can have a label here and also a value. By default, it's none, so you can pass a color code, and the color code should be in hexadecimal order, and I'm going to show you how to do this. And all of these items are the same as the other widgets, so we're not going to get into these items. So I'm going to pass a label named select background color, and if you save it, you can see by default a square appeared inside this UI, and you can click on that. When you click on that, a very small widget is shown up, and you can select some color, for example, some red color or some blue color here. And when you, I forgot to st.info color. So by default, it's let's refresh the page. It's black 00000 for RGB, and if I change it, for example, to red, it's equal to FF red, and for green and blue we have 0. So the value will be returned. Now, how can I make use of this selected color? Let's also show you how to use help in this session. Help is a tooltip. This is a tooltip for select background color for div. Always rerun. And you can see a question mark appear here, and if you hover on that, the text will be shown for user. And for all of the widgets, it's the same, so I prefer to use it once in this session. Now I'm gonna use this selected color or color, and I'm gonna use st.markdown. We just talked about this method in, I think, the second session. This is a method that we can use for adding some HTML elements inside the UI based on our need. So I'm going to add a div with the background of the selected color. So I'm going to pass a formatted string. It's a div, so I'm going to close it also. And inside the div, I'm going to use a style attribute for background dash color. It's equal to the selected color, and for height, I'm going to use 15 pixel, and for width, I'm going to use the whole width of the page. I'm sorry, this one. So I need to pass another parameter here, unsafe allow HTML. I'm going to say true. Okay, go ahead and render this. So you can see we have a div here, and not 100 pixel, I want 100%. Okay, and if I change the color, for example, to red, you can see the color applied to this div. So you can customize some part of the UI based on your need. So we don't have to do anything with color picker. You might want to use that in some cases. The next thing, and the most important widgets in our code, is a file uploader and download button. Using these two widgets, we can get, for example, a data file from user and do some business or logic on them, and then return an output using or add the output to some files and let the user to download the generated data. So let's see how we can use them. I'm going to comment these lines. File uploader widget is one of the good look and feel widgets inside the Streamlit, and I liked it a lot. And it's very useful because in data science or machine learning things, most of the time we need to be able to get some data input in file format, different file formats from user. So let's see how we can do that. I'm gonna create a variable name files, and this will contains the file information that user uploaded for us. So it's equal to st.fileUploader. For file uploader, again, let's see what we have. We have a label, a type. Type is the type of or the extension of the file that a user are allowed to upload to the server. So by default, it's all of the files, so we can just filter them. For example, looking for Python file or text file or image file and things like that. Accept multiple files. If you want to let user to upload multiple files, you need to set it as true. Or if you want to just let user upload one file at a time, you need to set it to false. And we will talk about it very soon. And the other items are the same as other widgets. So I'm gonna say st.info files. The selected files will be printed to the output. I'm gonna say upload your model file. If you save it, you can see we have a very good look and feel item here. We can drag and drop files here, or you can use this browse button. And by default, the limitation for each file is 200 megabytes, and you can change it in your server config file. And at the end of the service that we want to deploy it on a VPS or on a server, I will show you how to do this. So if you browse or click the browse button, the dialog will be opened, and let's move to the project folder here. You can see we have all the files appeared here, but I want to narrow it to show Python files. So as for the type, you can pass a single string. I'm going to say Py file. This will also appear here. And if you select browse, you can see here we have all the Python files. So let's move to this folder again. Here we don't have that text file or that image file. And if you want to be able to upload multiple file types, you can pass a list of string with the extension py and txt. These are the extensions that I want the user to be able to upload. So if I save it, both extensions appear here. And if you browse the file, and here you can see we have this py file and this text file. And that image file is not appeared here by default because we just set the type to py and text. Now, let's see. Am I able to select multiple files? No, by default, it's not true. So I can only, or I cannot drag over the files and select a couple of files. I can just select one file. Let's see what happens if I select this one. You can see a file will be appeared here, and I printed out the content of the files here. This is some information about the file. And also you can remove it. So, and before continue, I'm gonna show you how to allow accept on multiple files. It's equal to true. Now you can upload different files. For example, I want to upload these 3 files, or you can drag over the files that you want to upload, open, and these files uploaded to the server, and this is the information about those files. Now I want to do one of the things. When something uploaded, I want to check for Python files and print the Python file as the code snippet or code block inside the output. So here I'm going to remove the text file, and instead of printing the information about the file, I'm going to say for. It's a list. Okay, it's a list of the files for file in files. First of all, go ahead and read the data from the file. File.read, this is the binary format of the data, and I'm going to decode it to UTF-8. By default, the decode parameter is UTF-8, and you don't need to specify it. And I'm going to say st.code data, and the language for that is Python. We talked about this code function in previous sessions, I think. Yeah. Now let's save it. Okay, I'm going to browse the files one more time and select these two items. So you can see we have these two files here, and this is the code that we wrote in previous sessions. And to be much more better, I'm going to add expander here. How? I'm going to say with st.expander and use the file.name as the title of the expander. And this is the content of the expander. So you can see we have these two files here. You can expand them, watch the content of the file, and copy them. And also you can remove them from here. For example, I can remove session 5, and we have only session 4 here. So this is how you can work with file uploaded and the data uploaded to your server. And you need to apply your logic here. This is just my logic, and it's for just a demonstration. The next item is download. We want to add a download button, so users are able to get some data inside the file and download it. Let's see how we can do this. I'm gonna comment these items again, and so to add a download button, we just need to call st.download button. There's a bunch of prepared or arguments here. Label, data is the real data that we want to provide for user. The file name, the name that the browser needs to know about the file and save it on our local machine. The MIME is the type of the data. For example, it's an image, it's a text file, CSV file, or things like that. These are the same as the previous widgets. And this one is a type. It's type of button, and we talked about it inside the button section, I think in the first session. You can use one of these three different type of button. One is I'm going to use them. By default, it's secondary, so you can use primary or tertiary. You can also add an icon using material icon to add some download, for example, icon or things like that to make it different from the other buttons. And use container width is an option that the button will be occupied the whole width of the parent. So first of all, I'm going to say download data as the label. So if I save it, it says missing one requirement positional argument, the data. What's the data? Let's also add the data. I'm sorry. Data it's equal to, for example, I'm going to pass some name, city, and age. So if I save it, you can see the download button is here. And if I clicked on it, something downloaded from the server. By default, it's a text file, and the data will be added to that file. So I'm sorry. It's my notepad, and you can see the Streamlit download text with that specific data is downloaded. Now imagine that I want to let user to download an image file. I have an image file, my image file with my name on the current directory. So I'm going to open this file and let the user to download my image. So it says with open. I forgot the name of the file. It's me.jpg. It open. It's Python code. Me.jpg, and use it. Read binary. The name is file as file. So it's that download button. Call it download avatar. So for data, we need to just pass that file. Okay. Let's see what we have here. If I clicked on this avatar, it shows IDM for me, and it called a binary type. So I'm not going to use that. I told you that we need to specify the MIME type. So using MIME type, we can tell the browser that it's an image. So we can say it's an image file and JPEG. The type is JPEG. So let's save it one more time and press download. So you can see Streamlit download.jpg is downloaded. And if I click on that, this is also my photo. Let's also specify the name. File name. It's equal to, for example, wahid.jpg. So if I press, oops, This one I forgot to add comma. So if I press download avatar, this time we have Wahid. I downloaded it before. Wahid with an index. Again, the file downloaded from the server. And the other option is use container width equal to true. So the button will be expand all over the width of the container. And also we can download some CSV data. So let's see how we can do that. I'm gonna create some CSV data, a dummy data. It's equal to, CSV is comma separated value, and each line should be separated by \n. So the title is name, age, and city. \n, go to next line. My name, for example, Wahid, age is 38, and city is Shiraz, a beautiful city in Iran. Again, \n. For example, Mina, age is 35, and Tehran, \n. Amin, 30, and again, Shiraz. So this is the data. Now I want to let user to download this data as a CSV file. So I'm going to say st.download button, download data, and data is CSV data or any data that you just read from the user. File name, data.csv, and for MIME, it's equal to text/CSV. You can also create JSON files, text files, and any other acceptable MIME type. And also let's save it. It's another button, and I'm going to use an icon and material /download. Oops, download. Yeah, okay, you can see the download icon here, and it's much more acceptable for end user that know something will be downloaded here. So if I download it, you can see data CSV will be downloaded, and it opened via Microsoft Excel, and this is the CSV file in the CSV format. And before ending this session, we had some type here, primary, secondary, and tertiary. This was all about the look and feel of the button. So I'm going to say type, this time equal to primary. Oops. Yeah, you can see a red button here with white color. And for territory, we don't have any border and things. It's just like a link inside the HTML. And this is just about the look and feel. So this is the way that you can work with download button and let user download something from your code, some result or some results. So I think this is enough for this session, and till next session, and discovering about more widgets in Streamlit. Goodbye.